very much. It's wonderful when we can have specials. It's a blessing. And I didn't get worked up with that one, so I was very glad for that. I got my composure. I get so annoyed when that happens. Luke chapter 1. Luke chapter 1. I want us to look at some verses here. I want to preach on this morning. Mother's Day is hard. I don't know if other preachers had this or not, but Mother's Day is especially hard for me, trying to find just the right thing. Let's face it. Men and women we're totally different from one another. We don't always think alike. We don't always, obviously, we don't act alike. We don't look alike. There's just a lot of differences there. So trying to be able to get something for somebody that you're not always certain about, it's kind of difficult. Now Father's Day, that's not a problem. That's easy to do something like that. But with Mother's Day, it's a little bit different, but it's hugely important. Don't get me wrong. I understand. I don't want to detract from that at all. But it just is sometimes a little bit more difficult. I know the first Sunday for Mother's Day I was here, we preached on Hannah, and that was wonderful. I enjoyed that a lot, because in the studying you learn a lot yourselves. This morning we're going to look at Mary, an example to mothers. Now I was thinking about the title, and I said, well, should it be Mary, an example of mothers? And I said, well, not necessarily, because it's an example to mothers. Now many of you have gone through the motherly role already. Maybe now you've got grandchildren and you work with them as well. But it's an example to mothers in the sense that we've got some here that may be up-and-coming mothers that haven't gotten there just yet. So really what we're going to look at is an example to mothers. And there's 6 things I want to look at from the life of Mary. And when I was looking at this, I was just thinking about, now, I didn't do an insert. I apologize for that. I don't have an insert for that, but you've got the back of the bulletin. You can write things down on there. But there's 6 things I want to look at concerning Mary, and I am certain many of you mothers here have either experienced some of these things or did experience them, or perhaps even as grandmothers you might experience them as well. But I thought this was interesting. Mother's Day is a national holiday in the United States. It's observed on the 2nd Sunday in May, and it is specifically designed to honor mothers. It's interesting. I found this out from Googling this. In 1907, Anna Jarvis of Philadelphia started a campaign to honor mothers 2 years after her own mother died. And it was and I like this, Kathy, you're going to like this. In 1910, West Virginia became the first state to recognize the day. I thought that was interesting. Of all states, West Virginia was the very first one to recognize it. And I think that's worthy of noting. That was the first day. Matter of fact, Beth and I on Sunday nights, a lot of times we'll go to Quinessa Baptist Church. Pastor Solis from West Virginia as well. A lot of times when he'll do his devotionals online, you'll see his shirt and he'll say WV, right, West Virginia. And of course he likes all the state sports and all that go along with that as well. But 1910, West Virginia was the first one. A year later, nearly every state officially observed it. In 1914, President Woodrow Wilson officially proclaimed Mother's Day a national holiday to be observed on the 2nd Sunday of the month of May. Now, we know this, and a lot of times we might take it for granted, but mothers play a vital role in the raising of children. I was mentioning in Sunday school today, you take Moses' mother, for example. And we were talking about how she saw that Moses was a goodly child. And so she took him and hid him. So that Pharaoh's daughter came along. She found him. Miriam was right nearby, and she said, do you want me to find a mother to raise up this child? And Pharaoh's daughter said, yeah, please do that. And so she took him right to his mother, and she raised him up. And now the idea is that she knew he was going to have forever. She knew as soon as he was weaned, he was going to be going back into Pharaoh's household. So she had limited time, but we know she was bringing him up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. When he came into Pharaoh's house, he still had that training behind him. And mothers play an important part in the upbringing and training of children in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. So mothers play a vital role in the raising of children. Mothers are invested by God with the ability to love, care, and nurture. Guys, we don't always have that. We don't. A lot of times we're a little bit more tough and things like that in raising boys especially. Well, girls, it's different. But raising boys, a little bit more tough. You want them to. I was just talking to a coworker today. Matt and Tim and I had a chance to go out with him and his son is 10, and we went out to eat. We went out to, I don't think you guys have it down here, but Spike's Junkyard Dogs. We went there and I really enjoyed it. Got my fill of dogs. It was very good. But the next day I was talking to this coworker, and he said that with his son, he got a bike ready for him, and they were riding the bike, and his son got in a little bit of sand and kind of stumbled and fell off his bike. And his dad went over and he said, "Hey, how you doing there, son?" And he goes, "Well, I'm a little bit, hurt or whatever, but not really bad." He goes, "If there's no broken bones and there's no blood, you're all set. Let's go." And that's just how we are. We're a lot more tougher like that. You want men to grow up to be men, to be manly, to do the things that men do. But mothers are invested with the ability to love, care, and nurture, and that's ingrained in them. That's a gift from God. These traits, sometimes mothers do at a risk to themselves, and we know that. A risk to themselves. And I would like to honor you mothers today by looking at the life of Mary, the earthly mother of Jesus. And like I said, I see 6 traits in her that I'm sure is in you as well. As you look back over your motherly life, maybe even now as a grandparent, you're probably going to see some of these things and realize that, that is true. I have that. Or, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know about that. And there's things that we're going to look at. There's 6 things. First of all, I want to see, as we're looking here in Luke 1, Mary was settled. She was settled. Secondly, Mary was dedicated. We're going to see that also in Luke. Thirdly, Mary was tenderhearted. We're going to see that in Luke. The next one, fourthly, Mary was distressed. I'm sure some of you mothers have gone that as well. We're going to see that in Luke chapter 2. Fifthly, Mary was devoted. We're going to see that in John. And then lastly, Mary was committed. And we're going to see that in Acts. So as we are in Luke chapter 1, I want to start and I want to look at, let's look at let's go to verse 42. It talks about how they're here talking to one another, and she's with Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is talking with Mary, and we know that John is in her, and it says that the baby leapt when she heard the voice. But I want to drop down to verse, let me see here. Let's look at verse 46. Verse 46. It says, "And Mary said, My soul doth magnify the Lord, and my spirit hath rejoiced in God my Savior. For he hath regarded the low estate of his handmaid. For behold, from thence all generations shall call me blessed. For he that is mighty hath done to me great things, and holy is his name. And his mercy is on them that fear him from generation to generation." I want to look back at verse 30 back in verse 28. In verse 28, 26 mentions that the angel Gabriel came to her. Now we see that passage that she mentions here in the latter verses, but let's back up and look at what brought her to that point. In 26 it says, "In the 6th month the angel Gabriel was sent from God unto the city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin espoused to a man whose name was Joseph, of the household of David. And the virgin's name was Mary. And the angel came in unto her and said, Hail, thou art highly favored, the Lord is with thee, blessed art thou among women. And when she saw him, she troubled at his saying, and cast in her mind what manner of salutation this should be. And the angel said unto her, Fear not, Mary, for thou hast found favor with God. And behold, thou shalt conceive in thy womb, and bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus. He shall be great, and shall be called the Son of the Highest, and the Lord God shall give unto him the throne of his father David. And he shall reign over his house of Jacob forever, and of the kingdom there shall be no end. Then said Mary unto the angel, How shall this be, seeing I know not a man? And the angel answered and said unto her, The Holy Ghost shall come upon thee, and the power of the highest shall overshadow thee. Therefore also that holy thing which shall be born of thee shall be called the Son of God. And behold, thy cousin Elizabeth hath also conceived a son in her old age, and this is the 6th month with her, who was called barren. For with God nothing shall be impossible. Verse 38. And Mary said, Behold, the handmaid of the Lord, be it unto me according to the word. And the angel departed from her. Mary was settled. I want you to notice this. Now, hearing something like this, you can imagine all the thoughts that are going through her mind. But at the end of that, she came to the point where she said, Behold, the handmaid of the Lord, be it unto me according to thy word. And the angel departed her. She was settled. She was settled in what was announced to her. So I see this, looking at this passage, she was humbled and she was willing. She was a humble and willing woman, willing to be used by the Lord. Now think of this salutation, an angel coming to you and bringing these words to you, and you're just dumbfounded at this. But yet you've walked with the Lord in such a way, you know God, you know this is an angel, and you're able to say, I'm fine with this. Be it unto me as you have said. I am willing and I'm humble, and I will follow the Lord as I should. And when I was thinking about her, the fact that she was settled in her mind about these different things, my mind went back and I was thinking about different passages also in the Bible. Think about this. Rebekah was this way. Remember when Abraham's servant went and was trying to find a wife for Isaac? And how he went looking for that wife, and he said, Lord, bless my endeavors. And he prayed to the Lord and said, let these certain things happen that I'll know this is what you have for me. And it says that Rebekah came, and he's come a long distance, and he says, let me have a little drink. And she says, that's fine, have a drink. And I'll also take water for your camels as well. Now, as you may know, camels drink a lot of water because they store that water there. And yet her humility and willingness to do this for somebody, she didn't even know who this guy was. But she was willing and she was humble. Let me take care of you, and let me take care of your animals as well. You've traveled a long distance. And the idea that she also was willing and she was humble. I think about the Shulamite woman with Elisha. Elisha came by that way, and the woman said, turn into me and let us take care of you. And so he came in, and they took care of his needs, and he departed. And every time he came that way, he would stop in there. And eventually this woman said to her husband, why don't we build him a little place for him to sleep? Let's give him a little room where he's got a bed and a table and a chair, and let's make that for him. And again, the willingness and the humility that this man of God is coming to us. Let's give him a little bit here. Let's help him on his journey. He's wearied. Let's provide a place to take care of him. So the same thing as well. This woman also was humble and willing. Think about Peter's wife's mother. It says, the Bible tells us she was taken with a fever. And what did Jesus do? Healed her, and it says she rose and ministered unto him. There was no downtime. I'm a little bit weak here. I better take some time here. It says she arose immediately and tended to Jesus, to his need. The idea, she was ministering. She was a willing servant. She was humble and willing. The Bible tells us in Matthew 27:55 and also in Mark 15 that there were certain women that followed Jesus and helped him. They helped him out. They were ministers. They served him. Think about the women at Jesus' tomb. You know what? The very first people to see Christ resurrected was women. Where were the disciples? The Bible tells us they fled. They took off. The very first ones that saw the resurrected Lord were women. Why? Because they were there to minister. Who were the ones that took care of the body of Jesus? It was women. They took care of the body, and they wrapped it, and they put the spices in and laid it down. Caring, nurturing, willing, able to serve. It's interesting. The women were there at Jesus' tomb. There were certain women that followed Jesus and helped him. There was women that were at the tomb. The Bible also mentions in Romans 16, Paul mentions Phoebe, who was a servant to the church there. And she met the needs of the people that were in the church. She was a servant. She met needs that were there. She was willing and useful by the Lord. Being humbled and willing. And mothers, you're that way. It's ingrained in you. It's instilled in you. God has given you a gift that he doesn't just give to anybody. He gives it to mothers to be able to nurture and care and love. So the first thing we see here is that Mary was settled. Look at Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2. I want to read verses 1 to 5. Luke 2. Nextly, Mary was dedicated. Mary was dedicated. We saw that she was settled, but she was also dedicated. Luke 2, 1 to 5. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And this taxing was first made when Cyrenius was governor of Syria. And all went to be taxed, everyone into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee out of the city of Nazareth into Judea unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David. Look at verse 5. To be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. Being great with child. She was dedicated. Folks, there was no thought of aborting this baby whatsoever. We live in a very loose society today where there are no morals, there are no standards. People think about their own selves and don't even worry about anything else. But Mary was dedicated. The angel had come, said, you're going to bring forth this child, and there was no thought whatsoever about aborting this child. She was dedicated to the cause. She was going to do what she was responsible. She was a responsible mother, and she was going to see this thing through. But notice this. They came up, and it says she was great with child. Great with child. She was ready to be delivered, but she saw the thing through. She saw the pregnancy through because she was a responsible mother. A responsible mother. So she was dedicated to the cause. Look at verse 7. Verse 6 and verse 7. And so it was that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. Thirdly, Mary was tender-hearted. She was settled, she was dedicated, she was tender-hearted. I was looking this up, because I had no idea. You know, we think about the Christmas story and the things that went on, and a lot of times there's a lot behind the scenes that we don't know about. I want you to realize this. She is great with child, and she's traveling. I was looking at this. It was roughly 65 miles that she was traveling, being great with child. She's ready to be delivered. She's probably on either a horse or a mule, something like that. So you're going over rough terrain, 65 miles, and she did this. She did this because she was dedicated. She was responsible. She was tender-hearted. So she had traveled roughly 65 miles. She just gives birth, and she's got to be completely exhausted, and yet she tenderly cares for the Christ child. She says here that she brought forth. It says that she wrapped him in swaddling clothes and laid him in a manger. She went that extra mile. And mothers, that's what you do. You go the extra mile. It's ingrained in you. It's instilled in you. The ability to love, to nurture, to care. That is a gift from God. And Mary had that. And many of you mothers have this as well. She was tender-hearted. She was able to go that extra mile. Many of you mothers are the same way too. Exhausted from the day, and yet you're still able to prepare meals for the family to meet it. We look at what it says about the Proverbs 31 woman, is that it says that she rises at night and gives meat to her servants. Those that are supposed to meet her needs, she gets up at night and feeds them. She takes care of them. Why? Because mothers have that ability to nurture, to care, to love. So Mary was tender-hearted. Think about that. Traveling all those miles, being pregnant, ready to give birth. And yet she gives birth, and she's got to be completely exhausted. Now, I've never been pregnant before. But I would imagine that going through that, through the delivery process, I can't imagine. You talk about pain. I cannot imagine what childbirth can be like. The pain that is involved, the anguish, the trouble, all that goes through that, and then you give birth. You have to be completely wiped out after that, completely exhausted. And yet Mary is still able to go that extra mile and make sure that baby's cared for. You go to hospitals today, there's usually a team that takes care of that baby, don't they? You don't have to do that. You just kind of lay in bed and relax. She didn't have that commodity. She didn't have that. She had to do all of that. Nowadays, it's a little bit easier. And praise God, we have all that. And praise God that you mothers are able to take it easy. But she didn't have that. She had to do this all by herself. And she did. Why? Because of the motherly instinct that God has given you. So Mary was settled. She was dedicated. She was tender-hearted. Look at 48. Luke 48, 2:48. Mary was distressed. Now I want you to see this one. I think this is important as well. Luke 2 and verse 48. I want to back up a little bit in verse 43. 42 says, and when he was 12 years old, they went up to Jerusalem at the custom of the feast. And when they had fulfilled the days, as they returned, the child Jesus tarried behind in Jerusalem, and Joseph and his mother knew it not. But they, supposing him to have been in the company, went a day's journey, and they sought him among their kinfolk and acquaintances. And when they found him not, they returned back again to Jerusalem, seeking him. And it came to pass that after 3 days they found him in the temple, sitting in the midst of the doctors, both hearing them and asking them questions. And all that heard him were astonished at his understanding and answers. And when they saw him, they were amazed. And his mother said unto him, Son, why hast thou thus dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I have sought thee sorrowing. Notice that small f. Verse 49, and he said unto them, How is it that ye sought me? Wist ye not that I must be about my Father's, capital S, business? And they understood not the saying which he spake unto them. And when they went, and he went down with them, and came to Nazareth, and was subject unto them. But his mother kept all these sayings in her heart. So we see here that there was a time when she was distressed. And mothers, you've gone through that too. Beth and I had, I don't know if you've ever seen it. I think it's called Faith Like Potatoes. It's a Christian movie that's put out. I think it takes place in South Africa, but there's an incident where there's a bunch of kids riding on a tractor. One of the kids falls off and gets run over. And of course he ends up dying. But the parents are there in the hospital, and just the anguish, the sorrow, the distress that's there. And this was going on with Mary as well. This is her firstborn son. There's a lot of specialness there, the bond that is there, and she is distressed about this. So they've gone, it says a day's journey they go, they can't find them, which I still find kind of humorous that they just kind of went off. I'm going to tell a funny story in a second. But they go a day's journey, they can't find them, so they go back, and then still 3 days later, they're still looking for them, but they finally find them. But again, a mother's love, the bond that is there, that just, here'd be a dad. Well, 2 days we haven't found him. Let's just put a poster up on the pole here, and if somebody sees him, we'll put a phone number down. They can return him to us. We're not going to worry about this anymore. We got to get going. But a mother's love and the nurture and the care just keeps them going. It keeps them going. And so she was distressed here. I heard the story. Beth has mentioned to me before. I can say this because she's not here. Mrs. Descent. You remember Isaiah when Isaiah came here and preached before? Isaiah was that one child that was always getting left behind. He was always left behind. I think there was a time when he got left at church. They forgot he was at church. And they all went home, and they're all at home eating, and he's still at church. They left him there. But there was one story Beth talks about that Isaiah and Mrs. Descent had stopped at a gas station, and she was filling up with gas, and she's on the phone, I think with Beth, and Isaiah went into the store to buy something, and Mrs. Descent finished, put the thing in, she took off. Left him at the gas station. And so she was on the phone. Yeah, she was on the phone with Beth, and all of a sudden she goes, "Oh, Beth, hang on for a second. Isaiah's calling me." because he wasn't there. He was left. Where are you? But he was always getting left places. But so you just think about that, and it's humorous. But these things happen. But a mother's love and care. Now, I mean, she didn't leave him there. She went back and got him. But you think about that. It's funny. But, mothers, their minds sometimes slip, shall we say, and their minds get preoccupied on other things, and these type of things happen. But that idea that there's the love, the care, concern, the nurturing aspect that a mother has, it is just unbelievable. And so when they finally came to the place where they realized they could not find him, there was a panic. And that panic sent them back. Mary was distressed. She was panicking. They went back and they found him. But now again, mind you, time involved here. They went a whole day's journey. Now they got to go back a whole day. And then 3 days later, they finally find him. There's time involved. Looking at relatives' houses, looking at other places. Oh, what happened to him? We don't know. And then they finally find him after 3 days. But the time that's involved, but the dedication that a mother has, the devotion that she has, it's instilled in them. But ladies, mothers, yes, there are times when you get distressed as well. You might be settled, you might be dedicated, you're definitely tenderhearted, but there are times when you get distressed. I can remember my sister. Oh, she was so bad. She was so bad. But my sister used to come home from school, and she was so bad. I could tell you all kinds of stories, but I won't. But she came home from school, or she would do this repeatedly. She would come home from school, and she would crawl up in my mom's lap, and Mom would say, "Well, how'd your day go today?" "Oh, the kids were so mean to me, and the teacher was so mean to me." And Mom would console her and everything. Well, come to find out later on, it was her that was the bad one that was causing all kind of trouble, and she was just getting in trouble because of the problems that she caused. But Mom didn't know that. But the idea of the tenderheartedness, of the taking care, of the nurturing that's there, a mother's love. And of course, not knowing the whole story, you're going to go on what your child's telling you. That is the truth. I can remember another incident one time. My mom was out, and my sister and I were at home, and she was driving me nuts. So I chased her out of the house, and I slammed the door. And so I locked the door and kept her outside. This pastor now, your pastor did this. I locked the door and left her out of the house, and I think eventually I opened up the door to let her in. And she she went in the bathroom. Do you remember stuff that was called mercurochrome? I think it was. It was like a red medicine. Well, when you know this little stink, she goes and puts it on her finger. And my mom comes home. "Preston slammed my finger in the door." And who gets in trouble? I do, and that wasn't even the case. Pray for your pastor. He's still going to counseling for all these things his sister did to him. But I remember that. But she was so bad. One day you're going to meet her. You're going to say, "This is who you're talking." But she's so sweet. And yeah, watch out. Don't turn your back on her. Don't ever turn your back on her. But the idea, mothers, that's how you are, caring, nurturing, loving. Two more. Look at John 19. John chapter 19. I don't want to keep us super long because I know that you mothers are going to be going out probably to eat. And I want you to enjoy your day. This is a special, special day. But so we saw that Mary was distressed. Next, Mary was devoted. I want you to see this. John 19. John 19 and verse 25. John 19, 25. There's a interesting verse here in verse 25. We know that Jesus is being crucified. And it tells us in 25, it says, now there stood by the cross. There stood by the cross of Jesus, mother, and his mother's sister Mary, the wife of Cleophas, and Mary Magdalene. Where are the disciples? Where are they? The Bible tells us in the garden that they fled, didn't they? The only one that came back was John, because we know that Jesus speaks to John specifically from the cross. But the mothers was there. Mary was there. Her sister was there. Mary Magdalene were there. Why? Because they loved the Lord. They ministered to him. They were not afraid. They were there. He had no support whatsoever. We understand this is the very Son of God. Could have called down legions of angels, wiped everybody out. We understand that. But he died on that cross alone. His disciples forsaking him. But who was there? His mother and two others. They were there for him. I would say in support. I mean, that's kind of a horrible word to use, but they were there. They were there. He could look down and see them there. They did not abandon him. And that's what you mothers do, is you love and you care and you nurture. And Mary was there for him. His mother was there for him. She was devoted. She did not leave him. She was there at the crucifixion. I want you to turn back to Luke chapter 2. Luke chapter 2 and verse 34 and 35. Luke 2. 34 and 35. I want you to notice this. I notice this, and I'm not sure exactly if I've got this right, but it's a possibility. Luke 2, 34 and 35. Now, we know that Mary, Joseph, and Jesus are in the temple now for him to be dedicated, and it tells us that Simeon shows up and Anna shows up. But look what Simeon says. It says, and Simeon blessed them and said unto Mary, his mother, behold, this child is set for the fall and rising again of many in Israel, and for a sign which shall be spoken against, yea, and a sword shall pierce through thine own soul also, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. I almost wonder if maybe that's what was going through her mind when she was there at the crucifixion. Thinking back to what Simeon said, a sword piercing her own soul. This is my son. This is my very son. And they're mistreating him. And she was there for him because of a mother's love. A mother's devotion, a mother's nurturing. She was there for him and would not forsake him. Mary was devoted. She stayed there. This shows you the depth, the height, the expanse of a mother's love. That even though the Roman authorities are there, you're his mother, arrest her. That could have happened. We don't know. The disciples were scared to death. That's why they fled. They were afraid they were going to be arrested. But she did not care. That was her son. And she was there for him. It's interesting. In this verse that we looked at, John mentions 3 women by name. And folks, we're reading that today. How many thousands of years later, and we're reading it today. Those three women that were there at the cross for Jesus. They were there because of the love, the admiration that they had for him. They were there for him. Mary was devoted. Lastly, look at Acts 1. Acts 1. Acts chapter 1. Acts chapter 1 gives us the ascension story. And it tells us how the disciples eventually went back. You look at verse 12. It said, "Then returned they unto Jerusalem from the mount called Olivet, which is from Jerusalem a Sabbath day's journey. And when they were come in, they went up into an upper room where abode both Peter and James and John and Andrew and Philip and Thomas and Bartholomew and Matthew, James the son of Alphaeus, and Simon Zelotes, and Judas the brother of James." Notice, these all continued with one accord in prayer and supplication with the women and Mary, the mother of Jesus, and with his brethren. Folks, by now, his brothers, you look at John, I think it's 7:5, where it says that his brothers didn't even believe in him. They believe now. They believe that he is the risen Christ. He is the Messiah promised. They believe in him, and they band together. And it says Mary is there as well. And this is the very last glimpse we have of Mary. But what a way to end, right? She's there with the other believers. She's there praying with them, ministering to them, because she realized that this child that she gave birth to truly is the Son of God. He truly is the Messiah that was promised. And she's there with them. And she is now a faithful believer. So we saw in John 19, Mary was devoted. Well, lastly, in Acts 1:14, Mary was committed. She was committed. She was a believer. Her son had been crucified, raised again the third day. Now he is ascended, and she's committed to the belief, Christ's doctrine, the apostles' doctrine. She believes, she's a follower. She is committed to the things of the Lord. But what a way for the very last glimpse to be of somebody, to be that they're in the house of God, fellowshipping with other believers. So we've seen 6 traits of the characteristics of Mary. Traits, characteristics, however you want to look at it. But 6 of them. And mothers, these are in you as well. One way or another, you've experienced these different things. Maybe all 6. Maybe some of them. Maybe as a grandmother, you're going to be experiencing some of them as well. But Mary was settled. She was humble. She was willing. So are you. Mary was dedicated. She got up and did, regardless of her exhaustion, what she had to do. She was dedicated to the task before her. You're that way too. She was tenderhearted. She was tenderhearted. She was loving, nurturing, caring in her demeanor. So are you. She experienced times of being distressed. You ladies experience that as well too. Sometimes you get distressed as well. She was devoted. She was there for her son. Many of you ladies, if you've got kids in school or something like that, I hated it, but I remember having science projects, and you had to do a project and present it before everybody. Mine were always the worst, because I didn't put any time to them. But the excitement you had when your folks showed up, when they were there, how proud you felt. My folks are here to look at this. The pride that's there. Mary was devoted. So are you, being devoted. Mary, last of all, was committed. She was committed. And you mothers are as well. You're committed to the cause that is before you. The cause of being called a mother. Someone that nurtures, that cares, that loves. That God has ingrained in you that ability to do that. Now, Mary was human just like the rest of us. Just like any other mother that's here today. She was human just like you are. She was in no way perfect. None of us are. We understand that. But she went above and beyond. And mothers, you do that as well. Yes, we're not perfect. Yes, sometimes we stumble and fall. Things happen. But you nurture, you care, you love. It's ingrained in you. So we can see this example of Mary in the scripture, and we can apply that to our own hearts and lives. And she had a godly testimony before those others that were there. At the cross, she was there for her son. In the midst of that little group that met in the upper room, she was there. She was there when the wise men came to present their gifts. She was there. She was present. She was there. She was committed. She had a godly testimony that is recorded for us on the pages of Scripture. So let's close in a word of prayer. I'm going to ask that every head be bowed and every eye closed, please, no one looking around.